In my hiatus, I got bored and took the time to break this guy right here, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. Now, the title is not deceiving. I truly, in my heart of heart, believe that I have figured out a way to break Alden. Now, Sword That Connects Heaven Earth Alden is a card that was introduced to us in the Flight of Chakrabarti. I still can't pronounce that name to this day. Anyways, it was introduced into the set with the giant chicken and the support for Youth Borg, Leonore, and all the other good stuff. And it came out with its own countercharger, resource management piece, beater, and it's actually pretty fun. For a generic Keter Sanctuary deck that focuses on multi-attacks, it has a lot of things going for it in the future, considering the fact that it is able to work with a lot of generic support in this deck. As long as you get the resource management of this deck right, you can pretty much play anything and get it to synchronize with what Alden wants to do. However, as we know, in the current format of Vanguard, with Shiranui and Luar being all over the place destroying the meta, I have not taken place in that, and I'm on personal break, as you guys know, if you guys have been following the channel. So I figured, why not just go ahead and give this guy a try. And actually, after playing it for a couple of weeks, I do have to say, originally I was really disappointed because the new promo for it came out serious. But having the time to like really sit here, put my thinking cap on, and having a brain blast or whatnot, I really did say and find a way to like make this deck work. I said it, I thought about it, and it came to fruition. I was so pleased with myself. But enough of my rambling, let's go ahead and get into this video. And as always, if you guys enjoy seeing content such as this, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Do not forget to hit the notification bell so you guys are always seeing my newest videos coming out. Now, to understand how I got to this marvelous ending of taking Alden to the next level, we need to understand what Alden does, what's good about it, what's bad, take a look at some decks, and understand where we can move forward with this. Now, Sword That Connects Heaven Earth Alden is a Keter Sanctuary Grade 3 with the following ability. He states, act Vanguard Circle once per turn, Counter Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Choose up to one Grade 3 or less card from your hand and call it to Rearguard Circle. If you call the card, draw 2 cards. Then his second ability, Auto Vanguard Circle, and when this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more rear guards with different grades, cause Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your rear guards and return it to your hand. Then choose up to 2 cards, the total sum of their grades being less than or equal to the original grade of the card returned to hand from your hand, and call each of them to Rear Guard Circle in the same column. So the good things about Alden is that it can let you call 1, draw 2 cards, which essentially is a +1 to hand because you get something on board, then you're adding 1 card to your hand, and then obviously you can factor in the cost for that, take it how you will. This is a multi-attacking Vanguard. Alden is a 4-attack deck with other card abilities such as the promo. You can get 5 attacks, and then obviously if you hit certain over triggers and maybe other cards in the future, 5 plus more attacks. But the cool thing about this card is the fact that it lets you reset your units in Keter Sanctuary, which is important because a lot of our powerful effects in Keter are actually on-place effects, such as Topaz, Cardbray, and then any of our other on-place effects for Alden himself. So those are all really good things going for it. But then the flaws of this card really stand out after the good things get passed. So yes, you get to draw 2, yes, you're 4 attacks, and yes, you get to reset your on-place effects, but none of that really matters if your attack power is super low. Alden is another one of those decks that suffers really bad from low attack power. He doesn't give power to the stuff he calls out. He doesn't have any residual effects to give power. He's extremely needy on Persona Ride and having Persona Ride agents or just playing strong rear guards to make him better. Which leads into the second problem of this deck, which is the fact that it's extremely piece reliant. Now, Alden's second ability does not activate unless you have 3 or more rear guards with different grades on the board. Therefore, if you are playing against a heavy control matchup that's eating away at your hand both defensively as well as offensively by burning up your rear guards or just taking them off the board via any other method, then that's going to mess your strategy badly if you can't get other rear guards onto the board via other card effects and Alden's ability. And the last thing that really messes up with this deck is the fact that this deck is extremely heavy on the Soul Blast cost. To do Alden's effect every single turn, you need to Soul Blast 2, and Keter Sanctuary does not have the best cards for direct soul charging. You have like the Fasado, which is an on hit. You have the Grade 2, that lets you put a card from your hand to the soul if you draw a trigger. But then we have to ask ourselves at the end of the day, do those cards actually help Alden and benefit our strategy what we want to do? And I'm going to give you a spoiler right now, the cards I just discussed don't do that for us. But nonetheless, this community is resilient, and a lot of players have come up with really strong builds for Alden, and the one I'm about to show you now is the most popular build for Alden in the current format. Now, this is the most popular build for Alden with the introduction of the new promo support, Surius. To quickly glance over what Surius does, Surius is a grade 0 promo support for Alden that has the following ability. If your Vanguard is Alden, continuous on rearguard circle, he gets 2000 power during your turn. His second effect states auto, rearguard circle once per turn, costs counterblast 1. When your unit is superior called by the ability via Alden, you may counterblast 1, choose one of your rear guards and stand it. Now this is how Alden gets 5 attacks. It's also how Alden is going to be able to get different grades onto the board, as Surius is a grade 0 unit, meaning you are now playing all 3 different grades, 0, 1, 2, and 3, 4, that allow you to be active for Alden's effect and can be targeted via other card abilities. The ride line is coming with what Alden was given, Studios and Tranquilla. These 2 units both share the same effect of checking top 5 when you call a card whose grade is equal to or less than their own if you reveal 3 cards with different grades from your hand to your opponent, which you should always have because in the opening mulligan you want to see those different grades just to get ready for Alden's ability. But even if you do fail on the search to call something out that you want, you can call Tranquilla or Studios out themselves, but you do lose out on one of the cards in your soul for Alden's ability. And for the main deck, Alden's main support that it came with was actually really good. Lightspeed's Dragon, Ermac, as well as Firon are all direct Alden support cards with abilities that work with him. Lightspeed Dragon has the ability to move a card from the rear guard into the soul and give Alden 10k power and counts itself as a booster as long as your Vanguard is Alden. Ermac gets 5000 power when he's called out via a card ability, and he gets additional 15,000 power if your Vanguard is Alden when you call him out. Then you have Firon, who is our countercharger for Alden, who gets 2,000 power on plays, and then if you discard 1, you get to countercharge 1. Pretty solid standard support to get at the beginning of the introduction of a new Vanguard. You got countercharge, beater, soul battle phase soul charger, 13k booster, as well as the grade 3 target for your Alden's ability, which will be you taking back your light leads after you use its effect, and then calling out a grade 2 or 1 from your hand, as this is going to be the highest grade you can get that works with this deck. For our resources, you are playing the Topaz, Drilling Angel, as well as the effect Critical Trigger. These cards help get your soul back, as well as take advantage of your soul to get more rear guards onto the board, so that this way Alden's effect is always live. Carbray is one of those pieces that does that for you as well, and the red over trigger is for your offense, along with the Gradius Growl to get that extensive Persona Ride. Now for triggers, a lot of players are going the 4 front route because once again, Alden's power is so bad that they have to supplement it with Persona Ride, and if they cannot, they have to rely on front triggers or trigger effects to help them get the additional power to beat up their opponent. With this being the standard build for Alden right now, it does follow all the formats of how I think Alden should work. Alden is an aggro-based Vanguard. He wants to swing at your opponent multiple times. He doesn't have a lot of power, but he can get a lot of cards to your hand really quickly, as well as get more stuff onto the board via his own effect. He relies on multi-attack, as that's what his support is really focusing around by getting your Great Blade Sleeves back, clearing out your column, calling out the Ermac and a booster, to swing for 33k without the effect of Persona Ride or maybe triggers to supplement it. And then obviously you have your other effects to manage the resource issues that Alden comes with. This is the win condition of the deck, relying on multi-attacks to do all of that. And while everything I said does sound good on paper, Alden is still a D tier deck. I don't think it's the worst thing out there in terms of like what we have for standard, but it's definitely in the D tier section. There's a lot of other decks that do what Alden does, and they just do it better and more consistently, and they fix the flaws of having power. However, me being the lovable as well as patient man that I am, I came up with different ideas on how to improve Alden after playtesting it for a couple of weeks. Alden, already being a D tier deck, told me just go with it, just go ahead and try the craziest stuff that you can. And trust me, I did. With my search and getting to that, I found the answer. Now, I know you're all gonna think I'm crazy for this, for all the people that do play Alden, but hear me out. Think about it like this. We know that Alden has a power issue. Okay, so we need a way to get power to our rear guards, as well as a way to make sure that our numbers stay consistently good. That's really important. It's not just about the turn and being explosive, it's also about staying consistently good and maintaining the pressure of your cards. That's step 1. We know that Alden has the soul issue, so we need to start looking at the soul charging support of Keter Sanctuary, and as I was doing more research for this deck, I found what I was looking for. And then the third and final step is the fact that we need a way to still supplement our rear guards via other card abilities of Keter Sanctuary, which shouldn't be that big an issue because, once again, we're Keter Sanctuary. Like, we're the superior calling nation. Taking all of that into account, I stumbled across something that was really risky and really crazy, but I'll tell you now, in real life practice, it does work if you know what you're doing. To fix Alden, I looked at the Keter Sanctuary order line to make it work. Now, if you're not familiar with the order line of Keter Sanctuary, these are the 3 cards that make up this line, and all of their effects do everything I just stated that I wanted. Now, the order line for Keter Sanctuary is the same as others. You have the grade 1 unit that searches your order, which we'll talk about in just a minute. You have the grade 2 superior caller, who has, in her case, a power-up effect and a superior calling effect. And then finally, you have the order. Now, the order card is really huge for this deck because this is the card that ties in everything all together. Now, you guys might be thinking, Prime Vanguard, look at these cards. Counterblast, Soul Blast, and Soul Blast. And you're right, that was my initial thought too. But then remember what I stated earlier, that we have soul charging cards to make this work? We do. We have 2 different soul charging options to improve this deck outside of Drilling Angel, which is the grade 1 unit Magic of Purification for Puri, and the grade 1 unit Bringer of Fervor Lair. The additional power that Cadogan gets to himself, the 5k power given to the order, as well as Teethful, means that we now have a grade 2 that gets 10k, a grade 1 that's 13k, an order that gives 2 of our rear guards 5k, and then we're still keeping the effects of our beaters like Lightly, Ermac, and our other card effects in the deck that will gain power to make this deck work. Teethful will take over the place of Carbray in this deck because she does the exact same thing but better because she gets to check top 5, top 5 versus just the 3, and then she gets 10k power continuously even if you whiff the first effect because you didn't play an order. The order will give 5k to 2 of our units, and then this will turn those numbers much better to magic numbers combined with their boosters, which at minimum will be 23k, but 23k still demands a 15k from our opponent. And uplifting him itself is fantastic. Once again, this card can also recycle itself, so even if I don't want to commit the counterblast from Cadogan, I can start throwing away the grade 3s or maybe the dead grade 1s or 2s in my hand that aren't serving a purpose anymore or for the future, and then convert that back into this card to keep it for the next following turn when I really want to push. I've discussed Alden, how he works, what makes him good and bad, the deck that's currently popular with him, and my take on the cards that should be in the deck. Now you're probably wondering, you've talked about all of this for Alden, but how did you break it? How did you get it to the next level, and what does this build look like? Say no more, y'all. I got you. After everything that we've discussed with Alden, this is the current build that I'm playing for him in this format right now. Everything that I felt was strong and good from the previous list or the most popular stayed in the deck. I still think that Studios as well as Trankia are the best units to play for Alden. They, on most occasions, 9 times out of 10, always are successful via their effects because you're playing grade 1s that you want to search out and call the rear guard to start swinging your opponent with. And at that point, you'll have damage, so you get to use the Cadogan on call to set up for it. And with that being said, you get some early game compression, can activate Uplifting Him for the turn following. Light Lead, Ermac, and Surius are the 3 most important cards for Alden is what I've discovered. I really want to keep fire on in this deck, but like I stated, my counterblast only goes to Alden and Surius throughout the entirety of the game. I'll use Cadogan once, but usually if I'm paying attention to my resources, losing out on that draw or that multi-attack isn't as bad because I made changes to my trigger lineup and the effects of my new cards supplement cards back into my hand to make everything once again work in cotangent. Cotangent, is that even a word? The point is the fact that everything works together really well. Ermac, Teethful, Drilling Angel, like I stated, the importance of these cards is really huge. Ermac being a 25k beat stick that you have access to right away is good. Teethful, even if you whiff on her second effect because you can't activate it for Alden's first ability, and sometimes you might not have the soul to use it for the superior calling, you at least have the 10k buff from this card when you have the rear guards needed to activate her effect, which you always will because of how Alden works. And she'll get to become a magic number on her own as well as on Persona Ride turns. Drilling Angel, we already talked about that. We need the soul to get this card to work. Main phase soul charging is really important, especially if you want to go for the greedy play of using Alden, Teethful, and Uplifting Him all in the same turn. Cadogan essentially is our other 3 copies of the Uplifting Him, which I'm only playing one of in the way. I feel like one of is just all you need. As long as you get it in the drop zone, you have a way of getting back to it. And if you really are scared of not being able to see this card again, you might have to make the sacrifice just throwing away a grade 3 or a 5k shield to get this card back into your hand, use it for next turn. But honestly, it is worth it. In Alden's case, you need every single way to get power that you can to make those multi-attacks worth it, and then finally going for the kill on your Persona Ride turn. For Puri, supplements the soul charging cost. Toll Pass takes advantage of all the cards you soul blasted. We are playing Elementary. I think the Elementary is mandatory now in this format for every single deck. Originally, I was not playing it. I wanted as many grade 1s in my deck or normal units as possible, just for like the worst of the worst situations, but now Elementary is most definitely needed. Our trigger lineup has definitely changed. High crits, draws, fronts, and I switched my OT I think that the Armata Noah works better in this only because if you do the Uplifting Hymn and Teeth Fault play and you get successful with Trankia, you give yourself a full board and you will have compressed at that point 3 cards out of your deck, and if you pull the Over Trigger in the early game, you get to get a bunch of cards back into your hand and activate them as trigger effects, which will supplement the power to the rear guards if you get those effects off. And then finally, we have our 4 heals. Obviously, depending on the form that you play in, go ahead and make the switches to them. I just think that with a deck like Alden, you already are playing a very risky deck in terms of your resource management. You need to know that you're going to be able to block stuff and take care of things. I was not about to play with my heals. Alden has a lot going for it. Once again, this is one of the decks in Keter Sanctuary that works very well with all of its generic support. It's getting support in Divine Z with the introduction of, I believe, 2 new cards. I know one of them is a really powerful double R grade 1 that will restand a call and let you draw a card. If that card puts itself into the soul, Alden is in a good spot. And this is how I broke Alden. Alden definitely is not a top tier deck. I don't think that the resources exist for it yet to be a top tier deck, but I think that the direction that I'm personally going with it is the best I've ever seen. Compared to the other Alden builds that I've played against, as well as the people that I played against with both variations of Alden, this one has been the most successful. It fixes our power issue, fixes our piece reliancy issues, as well as does feed into our heavy Soul Blast style of play, but once again, you have to use your brain with this deck and put the Jimmy Neutron cap on if you want to be successful when you're paying attention to your soul. Tell me what you guys think about this deck in the comment section below, and with that being said, I'm your host Prime Vanguard, and I'll catch you later. Peace.